Hello, so in this video I'm going to show you how to set up the FL Studio MCP that will allow you to use Claude Code to send MIDI notes to the FL Studio piano roll. So the way this works is you run a version of Claude Code, or you can run any of the command line agentic tools like Gemini CLI or Codex, and the same process should work for them as well too. And you install an MCP server that allows Claude to send and receive MIDI notes from the FL Studio piano roll. So I'm going to take you through the setup for this. This version works on Mac, but hopefully I'll be able to get a version working for Windows as well too. But at least this version works in the Mac for now. And once you have the setup done, and I'll take you through the installation and setup, you can actually have a conversation with Claude Code, and you can see the MIDI notes appearing in the piano roll automatically. And you can also send the current state of the piano roll back to Claude so that it can see what's in the composition as well too. So it's a two-way process, and I'll show you how that works when we get it all set up. So the first thing we're going to do is download a GitHub repo and run our Claude Code inside this GitHub repo, and this is the thing that'll set up all the scripts that we need to make this work. And so this is a public repo, and the URL for it will be in the description below. But you just go over here and you copy the URL that we're going to clone, and that's all you need for this part. You can put this down, and then you come back, and I have my environment set up so that I have the piano roll from FL Studio over here on the left and a terminal window over here on the right. And so we're going to set up our Claude Code over here on the right, and then we're going to have a conversation with it and send the MIDI notes over to FL Studio. And so for this to work, you have to make sure that in the FL Studio piano roll that it's in detached state, because otherwise it can't get the MIDI notes from the MCP server. So just make sure that at the bottom of this menu you click detached on, and then you'll be all set. It may be that I can get it working for the other version of the piano roll, but we'll see. If you just come over to your terminal window, first make sure you're in a place where you can put this GitHub repo. So if you just logged into the terminal here and you do cd, that will take you to your home directory. And then if you type pwd, which is print working directory, you can see that you're in your home directory. And so if you want to see what's in this directory right now, you can type ls, and that shows the contents of the current directory. And so the contents of my home directory or my home folder looks like this. And so there's nothing in here yet for FL Studio. So what we're going to do next is we're going to say get clone and then space, and then we're going to paste in that URL for the MCP server and the rest of the setup that we need. And so when you run this, what it's going to do is create a folder called FL Studio MCP, and that's going to be where we do our setup and run our Claude Code. So go ahead and issue this, and it will clone that repo, and then it should have created a folder now called FL Studio MCP. So we're going to look for it, and sure enough, there it is. But now in order to make this work, we have to actually be inside the folder. So I'm going to say change directory cd, and I'm going to type FL. And you might not know this trick if you haven't worked at the terminal much, but if you start typing the name of a folder that you're trying to work with in the directory, you can just hit tab and it will fill in the rest of the name like that. So here what we're doing is just doing a cd, a change directory, into that FL Studio MCP folder. So I'm just going to do pwd again to make sure we're in there, and so we are inside the folder now. So once again, I'm going to do ls and see what the contents of this folder looks like. And this is everything that we downloaded from the GitHub repo when we cloned it a few minutes ago. And so there's a few things in here, and we'll talk about most of them. So there's a script of various scripts in here that you can run to help you get things installed, and I'm going to take you through that one at a time. And then there's some code that runs the MCP server that's called FL Studio MCP server that's here. And then there's also, and that's what Claude talks to. Claude Code talks to that. And then that talks to a piano roll script, which is an FL Studio API. And that script is the thing that is responsible for putting the notes into the piano roll. And it's also the thing that's responsible for getting the notes out when we want to pass them back to Claude. Say we want Claude to know what's in the current piano roll. This is the script that's responsible for that. And so after things are set up, this script is going to appear as a menu in the FL Studio script menus over here, and I'll show you that once it's set up. So the first thing we're going to do is just run a script called install prerequisites. And the way you run these scripts is you say dot and then /, and then you start typing the name of the script. If you hit tab, it doesn't know which one we want. We want to start with the one called prerequisites. So I type P and then hit tab again. And so this is the script that installs the Python packages that we need to make this project work. And so you can run that. And the first thing it's going to do is install something called UV, which is a package manager. And so we need that to kind of work with things. So you should see something like this, UV being installed. And if you don't have that package, this is the part that installs that. And then there's a couple other things that installs as well too, as it's going through the particular packages that we need. So once that's done, I'm going to do another ls so I remember what's in here. The next thing we have to do before we run Claude Code is we have to install our MCP server for Claude Code to use. And so this is a standard I/O MCP server. That's the type of MCP server it is. And in order to install it, Claude needs a little bit of code or a little bit of information about how to do that. And so that's going to be in dot / install MCP for Claude. And so we're going to run this script, and that should set up the MCP for Claude to use. So once it's typed in there like that, or you use tab to get it in there, go ahead and execute it. And here it looks like mine was already installed. But yours will probably have something a little bit different as it installs that MCP server. So we can check in a minute to see if the MCP server is actually installed. And so once we start our Claude Code, we'll check on that. And you can run that script anytime, and it should just reinstall the MCP, or if it's already installed, then it lets you know about that. So we've installed the prereqs, and now we've also installed the MCP for Claude. The next thing we're going to do is say dot and then /, and then we're going to say install and run. And this is going to install the piano roll script that we need over into the FL Studio folders. And it's also going to set up our auto trigger script that will detect changes or detect notes that Claude sends when it sends them. And then there may be a couple other small things that get set up by this as well too. I think there's some files that get set up as well too. So let's just run this. Okay, and it looks like everything is good. What it's done is it's copied some piano roll scripts over to the FL Studio folders. It's set up this thing called the Auto Trigger Watcher, which is something that watches, and as Claude Code sends notes, it informs FL Studio about those notes so that they can get loaded in. Excuse me. And then there's a couple other little data files that are copied over to FL Studio as well too. And that happens up here. There's some JSON files that it copies. So you can check the output from this command, and as long as everything looks like it installed okay, let's see what we've done. We've done the prereqs. We've done the MCP for Claude. We're not running the Gemini MCP, and we just ran this. If you don't want to run the install separately, or if you want to start it the second time, you can just say .run auto trigger. So if you come back and run it again, you can use that, for example, if you want. But the install would work as well too, I think. Okay, so now we're ready to run Claude Code. I'm going to say clear to get the window up here. And now I think we're ready to run Claude Code, so let's go ahead and run Claude Code. So make sure you're logged in. And so over here for the piano roll, or sorry, for the piano roll window, I think I told you to make sure that it's in detached format. But if it is, then you're set to go here. So the first thing I'm going to do over here is just check that that MCP server was actually installed. So you can do that when you're in Claude Code by saying /MCP, and then it shows you the MCP server, and it looks like it is connected, so that's really good. I'm going to go in there so that I can see the tools that this has. And so you do that, and then you hit return. And so there's a tool in this MCP server that will get the piano roll state. There's a tool that will send notes over to it. There's a tool that will delete notes, and there's a tool that will clear the queue for any notes that are kind of waiting to go to FL Studio. So it's pretty simple interface. There's not much more than that, but you do want to make sure it's running before you start. So go ahead and do /MCP to check on that. Now, the other thing I want to do is make sure that Claude can see if the auto trigger is running, and if the auto trigger is not running, you can ask it to just run it for you, and it'll be able to set that up for you. So is the auto trigger script running? And this is the script that detects changes or notes that are being sent by Claude to the FL Studio, and this is the little script that constantly watches for those notes, and when they arrive, it informs FL Studio that it needs to load those into the piano roll. So you kind of want this auto trigger script running because it's the thing that makes it magically kind of appear in the window just directly from Claude. So let's ask it if it can figure out if the auto trigger script is running. So you can always kind of approve as much of this stuff as you can when you're running in Claude Code. So, okay, so it tells me it is running, and it's running at that ID of 13240. In case you ever need to get rid of it, you can just ask Claude to kill that process. And it's a pretty harmless process. All it does is just monitor a file to see when there's changes to a file, and then it goes ahead and informs FL Studio if anything is put into that file. So I think we're about ready. The next thing you have to do in order to inform Claude that you're going to work with it in the piano roll is you need to run that piano roll script that got installed over here. So if you come over here and pull the menu there, you can go to Tools, and in Tools you come over and you see a script called Compose with LLM. And the purpose of this script is as soon as you pull this file here, or this menu here, that informs Claude of the current state of the piano roll. So before you start working with Claude in the piano roll, you need to let it know what the current status of the piano roll is. If you don't do this, Claude won't really know what the current composition looks like, and so will be confused. It could send notes, but it wouldn't make any sense if it doesn't understand what's already in the piano roll. So this is the menu you have to issue each time you do direct edits as well too. So say you're working with Claude for a while, and you could have Claude sending notes over one after the other and be making changes to the composition just by having Claude send the notes, and that's fine. And as long as that's happening, you don't have to do anything. But if you go in and make edits yourself to the piano roll, we have no way of detecting those automatically back to Claude. So every time you make manual edits to the piano roll, or the piano roll changes in some state, like maybe an undo or something like that, you have to run this command and in order to inform Claude of the current status of it. So you'll see what I mean. I'll show you an example of this as we're going. So go ahead and hit this, and as soon as you hit this, now the next thing over here, Claude's going to know about the piano roll. So let's just say, can you get the piano roll state? Okay, let's see what it says. Okay, so I'm going to try to issue these so I don't have to always be doing this. So it's going over there, and it says there's no notes in the piano roll. So can you give me a couple of chords in chord progression, whoops, in E minor. Just see if it sends something over there. Okay, so it's going to send something. Okay, so we have it. So let's actually go over here and start to play it. Great. So you can see what it's doing. It's sent 4 different ones there. So can you also give me a melody on top of this, and also a bass down below? And you can describe as much as you want about the piece, and Claude will try to work with you for whatever you want to do. It can take notes out and put them back in, and as long as you don't edit it directly, you can have Claude doing all the editing. So that's usually what I do, is have it edit stuff at first, and then I go in and edit it manually. So this is nice. And now here's the thing. If you go over here and you do edit something directly, so I'll show you that. So there's an edit to the piano roll. I'm going to stop it from playing. So there's an edit to the piano roll, and since there's no way for Claude to directly get those edits over here automatically, if I want Claude to see those edits, I now have to go back and actually pull that menu again. So I would come over here and say Tools, Compose with LLM, and then Claude will be able to see the change. Can you see what I changed? Okay, and it's going to pull the piano roll, and it should be able to find that change. So, okay, so we added this note up at the very top, and it thinks it's a cool addition. So let's hear. No, I don't think it's a cool. Maybe it is. Let's see what it says. Oh, it's kind of nice. All right. At any rate, so this is the idea: is you kind of go back and forth with it like this. Remember, every time you do make some edits over here, if you want Claude to know that you made the edits, you're going to have to pull that menu again. But otherwise, as long as you're just talking with Claude over here and having it send notes, then you don't have to do that. So here, for example, can you remove the bass I don't want it. So okay. So sometimes what it does is it like takes all of the parts out and puts them back one at a time. It kind of has its own mind about how it does these different edits and stuff. But okay, so there, it just removed those, and that's fine. And I'm gonna have it remove something else as well too. Can you remove that high note? I don't like it. So, you could, of course, just pull that note out yourself, but, you can have Claude doing this stuff for you. Right? So, okay, so that's basically the idea. And this stuff is saved in the piano roll. Once it gets in here, it's just like you ran a piano roll script and accepted the changes or accepted the suggestions of the filter.